Всем добрый вечер.
We would like to welcome everyone. Good evening. And I'm very happy to welcome you all here in the first report of a system integrator here for today. We've been thinking about this for too long, whether we should come up with this presentation or not, but we still decided to do it. What we would like to share with you today, we would like to tell you the story of a system integrator, a company which comes up with a project for our respected customers. All of a sudden, we faced a situation that we became very interesting for someone. And our monsters from underneath the bed, they do exist. And how did we become victims of this target attack? I'm Sergei Terehov, I'm the director of the cybersecurity. Vitaly Vasyutin is my deputy and the person who's actually head of the team, who was actually combating all that. So let us now speak about our company, not from a classic standpoint, but as a company that was an object for attack. Our company, Platformos, is a part of the Bazovoye Reshenie group. We are mainly doing system integration. So we are a system integrator, Platformix, and the Sila company, the vendor, the manufacturer of the hardware and software. Seems like that should not be an interest to anyone. Seems like that somehow it's not been much of an interest to you here. Apart from that, we have very strong security expertise. We are as follows. We have 450 plus people. We have branches there. We're not a federal level company, but we are a serious company. We have a very good and developed information security system. That was sufficient. Everything which was related to the risks and threats before, we have. You wouldn't believe us, but we have information security processes certified by ISO 27001. We have everything to comply with the requirements for the protection from the leakage of personal data. So what could possibly happen to us? How did we live previously? Here is our paradigm. We won't be ever purposefully attacked. It's always been like this, and for 30 years there has not been a single breach that has damaged us somehow seriously. It was covered by basic mechanisms. We are not a big-scale production on which this business depends. Our business is a product business. We've come up to the customer, we made a project. We came up to a different customer, we made a project. We are autonomous. If tomorrow this whole infrastructure drops dead, our engineers will remain with you at the project. We don't have too many financial operations that other companies that are normally being attacked have. Our data is not very much needed to anyone. We protect our customers separately, and we are not a state-owned company. There should not be any political risks involved here. So we basically think by default that we are safe and secure. Our people who work for us are 90% IT people, so they know things and they do backups. So we've always lived this idea that it would be very difficult to damage us significantly. But then all of a sudden, I called Vitaly and I said, it was not day, it was night. He is one of the people who works late at night, and he says that there is something horrible happening there. Vitaly is going to take over from here. So I need to have a remote control.
Продолжая наше повествование,
So if I continue this, we started that. I was actually going to bed, and then Sergey called us and he said, "There's something happening. Please go ahead and figure it out." That's how I
по ходу того, как мы начали разбираться,
perceived that.
вот я рассказываю не
As we progressed with that,
подробностями, хотя сама
I wouldn't want to tire you with some technical information. There was late at night,
пределы забора. Поэтому мы хотели бы сосредоточиться на самом
so we decided to focus on
на
the
эмоциях, на восприятии,
emotions, on perception, and the human factors,
времени потратили.
because we spent quite a lot of time to understand why we had been breached, why we hacked,
Мы пришли
although we have quite a lot of security, cybersecurity experts in the company. Seems like that there was a big human error and
повезет вам или
being fortunate or unfortunate. Whether you're unfortunate and you become a victim of this attack, you may become a victim and you may even lose all of your infrastructure, all of your
Итак,
data.
поэтому сейчас мы пойдем по стадии.
There are such risks that do exist. And now we will explain what this particular attack looked like. Then I will be focused on how we reacted, how we wanted to gain control over this infrastructure, and how we made sure that we don't have any more
Обеспечения в нашей системе нет.
malware in our system,
Снова хорошо.
and we are all doing good.
В результате которых
Then we did a few conclusions,
будет в конце презентации.
and I will explain this in the end of the presentation.
Доподлинно не знаем, как конкретно готовились люди, которые нас сломали, но мы смогли выделить по
We could single out a few key steps. The first thing was
организация,
an organization, a normal organization, which was not tackling any IT activity. It was just something related to
взломали.
legal activities, and that company was hacked. Then the infrastructure was created, the servers, the distribution servers, which did not relate to any
Такими попсовыми
database.
они на тот момент
Even the virus total solution could not detect this. Then a certain malware was detected
также очень легко пролезла через наши.
that was very easily going through our firewall and our antivirus.
И были определены жертвы.
So we detected the victims among the platform's employees. Why we were so confident about that?
Была создана инфраструктура, которая на тот момент не была популярной с точки зрения
So I guess it was
ПВО. И несколько десятков человек, которые были
a
связаны
selection of a few dozen people that were related with some project activities.
опять же, если бы мы говорили про
So again,
какую-то там
if we're speaking about some direct mail, some
нам такие письма приходят,
hacking attempts, such emails we do get, and the CEO email is also
люди
the target for them.
их светились, далеко не всегда.
Not all of the people were detected, and not all of their emails went outside of the corporate emails.
Где-то записи эти
Then we tried to figure out whether that data was collected elsewhere. We didn't find the evidence. Then the situation was aggravating. 28 people were receiving this clickbaiting email. And we do train people that sometimes these emails contain suspicious files. We should not open such files. And 27 people ignored that email, but the 28th person had a deadline. A few customers were trying to push hard, so everyone was trying to push hard, and automatically they clicked that email. He opened the file, so his computer read the script, and a part of the malware installed. It was a part of the ransomware attack. It was a driver.
И
It was a driver.
на этом одном компьютере у нас
So
одновременно
at one single machine,
семантик.
we had Defender, Semantic.
Я так понимаю, что фантазия у злоумышленника кончилась.
Then the
Создано дополнительное программное
hacker
которое
uploaded additional software which established connection with the server management. Then they connected to the server, they launched the session through the tunnel and installed a few other utilities. Some of them were simple, some of them were not, but the system was defenseless. And that's how we did that. Then a few privileges were raised to the local admin. They pulled out the data from a local user. And then we started getting this rotation. By using this machine, investigation started, new devices were found, they were infected, new accounts were compromised. With these new accounts, devices were infected. It rolled over and over, it went on, and finally they reached our Active Directory where they repeated these steps, and this is when we detected these attacks by being so fortunate at that time. Previously, the monitoring system which would monitor that did not exist, but the IT monitoring system detected the shutdown of the antivirus at some of the key servers. It's good that the admin was awake at night and decided to check this out. And he started to try to attempt to log in, and he couldn't do that. At that point, no one could even understand what was going on. So he was trying to get other admins log in. So there was more and more smoke and the water appearing, and we were contacted at that point. I mentioned that previously, but here is a bit of a summary. Like all of the normal people, we thought that we had a fully fledged cybersecurity system. Well, selling cybersecurity is one thing, it's always fun, but implementing cybersecurity is a different thing. We had an email gateway, a web gateway, a firewall, antivirus, we had policies. Everything we had was just like it's supposed to have in a proper way. Email gateway had a legitimate email which was not recognized as a spam message, for instance. The number of mails sent at a time was very low, so the thresholds did not initiate. It was just an email. The antivirus could have done something if it had not been shut down in the first place. The firewall skipped the HTTP traffic because of the liberal policies. They thought they knew what they were doing because they knew that they would not leak this information to anyone. As far as web gateway is concerned, there was no reputational damage. So this system was coping with some opportunistic attacks before someone wanted to bring up some hacking trick, and the system started crumbling. And again, taking into account the specifics of our work, and we know what to do, and we all IT people, and we did not somehow regulate the utilities people were using. So we have some developers, we have admins, we have ourselves, we tested, so why not? And even everything which was spreaded previously was going through the mix of the standard utilities and malware, like Unidesk, Microsoft system utilities for remote connectivity. Some standard tools. For us, it was not extraordinary at all. And from that moment on, when this malware shut down the antivirus on the first computer and established the connection with the hacker, we lost everything in 97 minutes. That's the thing. So then we knew exactly there was something going on. So the first reaction was like that. We have standard IT procedures. We switched off the remote access for the users. The admins started looking for malware. with standard utilities, and there was one person responsible trying to check that everything was good with the malware. In terms of the analysis, we couldn't really understand the scale of the problem. There was something about antivirus that skipped something. Then, after the backup, what was the point of doing? Our infrastructure was not quite protected, but there were some structured segments that we used for connecting with the customers, also the public companies, some financial servers, the accountants' computers, and the information about the contracts. And due to some issues, those segments were isolated from our main infrastructure. So in terms of working with the customer, we use a separate VPN. So those segments were not touched. So if we did not have that strict division, I would not be allowed here to speak about that. Then in terms of the analysis, however fast we run, we started figuring it out about what happened, the whole chain of events, a little piece of that chain of events, what was detected there. So we went on analyzing the system. In parallel, as we understood that there is a certain malware, we started checking the systems that look suspicious. We logged in them, and we started purposefully shutting down those systems or isolating them. Some of them were reinstalled starting from the controllers, and that's what our IT block was doing. We are a system integrator, and we have a deployed system. We have a CM, we have a SDR, the server part. Everything we needed was just to connect them to our infrastructure. We have bureaucracy everywhere, even we have it, but we just need to get that permission in 5 seconds within just one simple phone call. In terms of this analysis, first of all, what we should do, we just need to get extended monitoring at the key points, because here we would like to understand, we wanted to understand what was going on. We have some manifestations, but we were getting scary because we couldn't really understand what was going on. And then the retrospective analysis of what had happened, we were trying to figure what had actually happened. And we were fortunate enough because the IT people were getting these window logs, and we stored them. And those window logs did not suffer. They were not damaged at all. So all of the activities were there in place. If we did not have logs, if we did not have CM, we would be just trying to manually restore all the system computer by computer. And that's what the first results of the analysis look like. First of all, they were a little bit scared. We knew that we were not encrypted. It was not ransomware. That's good. But if we had been encrypted, we would have suffered a lot. What we shut down and recognized was a part of Cuba ransomware. Cuba ransomware would normally lead to encrypting the assets. We tried to figure it out, what was coming and what was getting from it. So the driver was loaded with the signed Microsoft security certificate signed by some Chinese company. We found this Chinese trace. And when my boss started bugging me, I said, we were not encrypted, which is good, but we can be encrypted anytime, and the Chinese are to blame. Well, since we are in the business section, I would like just to add a few business things here. As soon as Vitaly mentioned that, we immediately arranged a certain quick strategic session with the company's shareholders. So what's important here to remember is the whole paradigm in which we had existed. So I sent the intermediary report, but you need to understand that we were facing quite a lot of changes in the company's management. So business-wise, it was difficult to understand. We didn't know that in 2023 we would be so needed to a Chinese company. So we started getting suspicions. Well, the Chinese want some ransom from us. Well, no one is actually asking for any ransom. Ransomware, not ransomware, quite. So analyzing the problem level of the business was becoming crucial. So this meeting was a short one, the business meeting. There was a need to connect some resources, and they were actually afraid of attracting our partners and find people to blame and punish them. Vitaly, continue. So after all those changes, when you become a very important person in the company, it seems like that you get maximum support and a lot of attention, but you really wouldn't want to get any support or any attention. But that's all we understood. We understood that that's fine, we can live with it, but whether it's just the beginning of our troubles, we didn't really know. So we had to return this control over our system. So we flipped the places. Our CM system, our monitoring system started getting data, and we started doing very routine work. We've put quite a number of people to analyze this. So we have quite a lot of technical experts and a lot of security people. When we were stimulated in that most horrendous way, we did have a capability of taking 20 people, putting them on chairs and not let them out of the room before everything gets fine. It's good that you have such 20 people, but what if you don't have these 20 people, if you have just one security admin and he's gone fishing and his phone is off? Then it's going to be a real sad story for you. Then this routine started, but this routine was a hasty one. We were shaky, and we were shaken and trembling at every sneeze and cough. We were trying to find out some compromises there as well. One of the pieces was the analysis of the hash in the system where the where the antivirus did not shut down. We figured out one API, one URL. We found some other things. We were trying to find some. We were trying to find software which would be detecting that, and that procedure was repeated and repeated over and over again. We found new users. We were isolating these devices. We were shutting down the security system, but it was working. So from the beginning, we thought that we have just one infected computer and one Active Directory. Then we found out that there were 5 infected computers, more than 5. Then even the server that managed the antivirus was infected, and it helps infecting other computers. Well, it sounds ironic, but we were actually showing in the very beginning the foreign hostile products. they no longer exist in Russia. They are bad, hostile, foreign companies, which I always hated.
То есть дальше начинается проблема, что вроде
And here is the problem starts. The more successful you get, the more suspicious things do arise. And it's a more simplified, visualized thing that makes a good picture. You have a real evil mug that is trying to endanger you. You have an end goal, which is unclear. You have a few stages in between, and you don't really know whether you can go through all of these stages.
в этот момент
And at this particular moment in time,
с точки зрения профессиональной гордости или чего-то еще думать, что мы справимся.
in terms of this professional
Потому что, в принципе, ломать инфраструктуру, это когда у тебя есть палка,
pride, we understood that we won't be able to do it on our own, won't be able to pull it off on our own. It's very difficult to escape.
Поэтому в этот же момент нам достаточно оперативно
At this particular moment, we were able to arrange that with the Kaspersky company, and the incident management people joined us quickly.
не изменилось в алгоритме.
So in actual fact, the algorithm did not quite change, but it went on smoother and faster, and we calmed down. We were asked for data. Those were not just pieces of files. They were completely infected notebooks, for instance. We sent them the data, and after a certain time lag, new IOC was required, new data, new devices. We made the corrections, shut down the devices. Then there were a few iterations. They repeated and repeated before the requests for data stopped. Then the IOC stopped, and then we could calm down. So in actual fact, we had quite a big scope of infection, but then we had a big system of monitoring, and tired people were looking through that monitoring system. We did not see any signs of infection, and it seems like that this infrastructure was won back.
Время просто 3 минуты осталось.
We only have 3 minutes. Oh, are you serious?
Вертолеты в голове.
Oh, actually, I can still hear helicopters flying in the sky of Vietnam with music playing. So it's time for me to wrap it up. I would say that it was 97 minutes of time it took, lots of emails, domains, malware, standard thing. The cleanup was also quite standard. There was nothing special. We just shut down the production processes. We reissued the Kerberos tickets. We reset all of the passwords in the accounts, adjusted the policies. We switched on the monitoring and made our employees more aware, and we instructed them to not open any suspicious files in your emails at all. Take a deep breath and then think about deleting this email without reading. We have a very topical conference here, and very often we speak about monitoring, about attacks. That's what we spoke about to our customers, and we saw people sitting with smug faces, and here is a story for you, what can be seen with the Windows logs. You analyze them very carefully because it's your problem and not just your job. And then it's good that you have a monitoring system which collects changes in the system, that collects the network traffic, and it shows how the system interacts. So the visibility is about 100%. We had quite a lot of regret that we didn't do that 3 weeks prior. I wouldn't want to show off too much, but that's the thing that does extended monitoring at working stations, and it identifies suspicious events. It has rules and mechanisms. And number 3, even if it requires a lot of tuning and setup, it's good that they have the isolation of host by suspicious activity. And when we have come up with the full part of events, when we were able to get alerts, it was good that we realized that we did not implement that thing earlier. So at a very early stage, 1, 2, 3, all those alerts could have worked. If that attack started from a computer with the alert which would have isolated that device, then 20 people would not have to work for a few weeks eradicating the consequences. And now the conclusions.
А мы это не будем смотреть?
Are we not going to look through this?
Я должен уже договорить.
I think I should say a few words.
Ну, в общем, давайте коротко. Да, значит...
These are minor things.
Ну и, наверное, опять же...
Damage and things like that. Well, seriously speaking, why did we decide to take a risk and share this story, although it's not a common practice? Yes, of course, 21 server and working stations were affected. 14 accounts just disappeared. We had to reissue them and change all of the passwords and all of the credentials. If you think that it's not true, but before we did not notice any theft of the data. Well, reputation-wise, the reputational damage is questionable. Financial damage, well, we did not lose much money, but we lost time, we lost people. It involved a lot of work. We hired an organization to help us out. So what did we gain? Well, it's a business section that we have here. So we realized, not just we realized, but our shareholders, our management realized that we have our own malicious event that cannot be allowed. Whether it was a Chinese attack, whether it was not, ultimately it turned out that they were not Chinese, but anyway it turned out that somebody got a sniff of us and decided to attack. And seems like that we know that we are not the only company. There are other companies that have been defeated. So I think we should speak about it openly. We realize that there are huge companies that have serious reputational damage, but I guess they will note that, they will take note of that, because our infrastructure, even if we take a look at whether we could use our resources and sum up all of the resources, we still spend some time for that. But if you are in a small company, if you are a developer, an integrator, or whatever, whether you'd notice that at all in the first place. And what's the main conclusion we made? We were very, very fortunate. We were very fortunate that obviously the ultimate violators that we had low qualification. They were not skilled enough, because if they had been skilled enough, they would have hacked us much quicker, and they didn't find what they could have found. But it's a classic supply chain attack, and in this particular case, we were definitely lucky. After we realized that, and after the business realized that, we completely changed our strategy. We understand our risks, and obviously we see that there is no standard set of measures that is sufficient here. So ISO 27001 will not rescue us. Unfortunately, even our database is secure, seems secure, but it will not help us. And these monstrous attacks can infiltrate anyone's company. No one is secure enough. The Obolum company, and I'm finishing this, helped us with this. We would really want this to stop to be a secret from anyone, so that we can speak about it. We're just a couple of handshakes away. Let's just talk about it together. Let's make this company better, and let's make this world and the country better, sharing this information with you. And I think this is where we need to stop. Answering your question, we use them as a service. We use them as a service. So we use them not as a product, but
мы не нашли,
not their product.
не обращались
We did not
в правоохранительные органы, потому что не смогли оценить ущерб.
contact the
Но опять же,
authorities or police.
наверное, их не совсем правильно и корректно сейчас.
We can make assumptions, but the assumptions would be very wrong to
Гипотез в том, что
voice here. One of the ideas was
который не
that someone had taken a part of the malware which had not been recognized by
правильно же всё говорю, если что.
the malware. Am I saying it right?
Ну, была часть,
So it had a part,
который распознавался
APT, which was recognized by not all of the antiviruses, and it was not put in with any signature. We spoke about Cuba, we spoke about some part of the ransomware. They could have worked with simple utilities. So what we could not track down is this particular story.
Ну, мы не знаем.
So this person who was doing all that, we don't know anything about him or her. He may be even sitting here in this room.
Внешнюю компанию
For this, we attracted the third-party company. We used the Kaspersky company.
Уверены, поэтому мониторинг не снимается.
ну,
Но
We are not certain about that,
ту стратегию,
but we claim that we are.
которую мы реализовываем, она
And the new strategy that we implement, we need this
таким образом. Ну, если у нас кто-то
in order not to combat this in any other way.
в компаниях, там люди по 200 дней.
There are some people in the companies that exist for 200 days. Such stories long for 200 days, but ours lasted for 97 minutes.